On today's episode of Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast, we're going to be talking about 3 years at Real, what it's meant for our business, our team, and our future.
Hi, I'm Karen Cooper, a wife, mom of three, real estate broker, team owner, and founder of Empowering Women in Real Estate. As a realtor, I've personally helped well over 700 families in my career, and now I help thousands of women from all across the country balance real life and real estate through daily inspiration, motivation, and actionable plans to increase their success. Listen in as I share stories and tips from my life and business and interview some of my favorite people.
Hi there. I'm glad you're here for today's episode. So, we have been with Real Brokerage now for 3 years. We actually just hit our year 3 anniversary on Monday of this week, if you're listening to this episode the day that it airs. And we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot over the past 3 years. And, the first year that we joined, I actually did these updates like quarterly, I think we did. Just kind of more regular, updates because, every time you make a brokerage move, there's always a lot of changes and, just a lot of moving parts and things. And so we did that quarterly. But since then, it's been like a once a year kind of check-in. So it's that time again to do that once a year check-in. So we have been here now for 3 years. And I feel like this is an important milestone because I feel like we've kind of hit that point where we're starting to see the compound effect of a lot of different things. Anytime you make a change in your business, whether you change brokerages or, maybe you add a new income pillar or you are adding a new, pillar for where your business comes from or try a new marketing effort, there's a period of time where it's just kind of, I don't want to say grind or grit, but it's just like, you're just having to do the motions and you're not really seeing the results of what you are doing yet. But then in time, right? Anything you do consistently in time, you will start to see a compound effect. And we have definitely hit that over the past year. And that has been really good. And so, here at this 3-year mark, it feels really good to be here. When we made the decision to join Real, my business partner, Vicki, and I knew it right away. We had been approached by our friends, Ryan Zook and Janet Brink, and they had actually reached out to us quite a few months before we moved. They were just about to make the move and they reached out and kind of shared with us, what they were doing. And it was a hard no for us at that point. We were just really not interested in hearing more, and which is kind of funny. And I think it's just because the cloud-based model felt foreign to us. We had been at throughout my career, this is only the fourth, I've been in business 23 years. This is only the fourth brokerage I've ever been with. And all of the other brokerages have been very traditional brick and mortar brokerages. The first two were big franchises, Remax, Century 21. The third one was a more local regional brokerage. And then of course now Real. And so what's funny is when they approached us, we had actually been researching and talking to other brokerages for actually about 2 years. We knew that we had kind of hit this point, and we loved our former brokerage. The people were wonderful. The owners were wonderful. It had been a really good place for us for a long time until we just kind of reached that point where we felt like we had, we kind of hit a ceiling. We had accomplished all that we could accomplish in that particular type of model. And so we had been feeling that for a while. And for 2 years, we had met with different brokerages. We had talked to Keller Williams. We had talked to Compass. We had talked to McInerney, which is a name that you'll know if you're in my area, which is now a part of Corcoran. And, we had been doing our research. And it's funny, when they first approached us and we were just like, hard pass, didn't want to hear anything about it. Even though we had been, researching other things, I think it just kind of felt foreign to us. And then I don't even remember what it was or how it came about that we actually were willing to have that conversation, but it was months later. And I won't forget it. I'll never forget the date because if you know me, you know that I'm a Halloween person, I'm a fall person. And we sat down for lunch on Halloween on October 31st. And before the end of the lunch, I was in. I knew that it was right. It felt right. I was sold. I knew that this was the solution that we were looking for. And it took Vicky a little bit more time. It took about 2 weeks. I think, yeah, it's about 2 weeks. And it was like, I don't know that she slept during those 2 weeks. Every night she was up, looking at watching YouTube videos. And I'd get up every morning and I'd have all these videos and links and things that she had sent to me, just kind of researching and learning and understanding. And, once she took her about 2 weeks. A week later, we told our team. A week later, we're ready to tell the owner of our brokerage and make the move. And so, I don't know if you call that fast or not, but it was a big move. We had 30 some transactions, I think, in progress at that time. We had a lot of listings in progress at that time. So it was a huge undertaking. And so certainly those first few weeks were definitely stressful. Anytime you're making a brokerage move, it's always stressful. You've got a lot to learn. We moved a lot of people with us. I think we moved like 32 people with us. It was a lot. But once we, kind of got through that first, especially those first few weeks, then I mean it's been smooth. I can say it's been largely smooth ever since. And it's not perfect. Nothing is ever perfect. I have never been at a brokerage where absolutely every aspect of it was absolutely perfect. We've had moments where we've shifted things with the technology, the way our team was structured, and that would cause some issues. And just every time you have growing pains, and every time we work through them, every time we have been much better off on the other side of them. And so that's been great. I think what we expected when we made this move is, I think we expected more people to see what we saw and to understand what we saw. And it's, I don't want to say confusing. It's not confusing. It's not hurts, but it's puzzling still. Some people that we thought would make this move with us, but couldn't see it. Especially what we have come to know and learn and experience in the past 3 years. Like it's truly mind-boggling. Some of the people that have not made this move, just because it really does change your business, and it really has changed our business for the better. And that's okay. So that was one expectation that was a little, I guess maybe puzzling. you know, I feel like our business, my life has changed so much over these past 3 years. The first couple of years were hard. They were hard in terms of we were shifting a lot of things in our business. The market was shifting. We were having to make shifting from a staffing perspective. We started making shifts in terms of like team structure. Now we're a national team. We have eight, as of the day I'm recording this, we have agents in 19 different states, and I think we're going to have 20 by the end of the year. So fingers crossed on that. And so, anytime you're doing things like that, there's always going to be some pains and some struggles. And so we definitely went through some periods of that. But I can honestly say this past year, 2025, and I've shared this before, just in general, and not just as it relates to our move to Real, but this has been an amazing year for me in many ways, in terms of mindset, in terms of, happiness, happiness level, finding the joy in my business again. I feel like I had really lost that. And I think especially, it's like you're holding too tight to something. And anytime things change, right? And things are always changing. And the industry is constantly changing. Like, there's so much that's shifting all the time. And if you were trying to hold tight to how you've always done it, to what worked 20 years ago, you are going to struggle. And there was a period of time, I think, with our move where we were trying to hold tight to some old things, right? To some old ways of thinking, to some old ways of doing things. And I think that contributed to some of that discomfort that we had with the transition. But now that is fully gone. That is fully gone. I'm legitimately excited by the possibilities. Like, on a daily basis. And so that's been really, really good. So to talk about kind of what, before I, kind of maybe get into sort of the biggest benefits and things that we've experienced, but talk about what drew us to Real in the first place. One of the things for us, we have always been a large team. We have always done a lot of business. This year we're going to come close to serving 400 families, and that's not unusual for us. And so we've always done a lot of business, and we are a team that, because of our model has always been different. Even before we shifted and became a national team, our model has always been very different in terms of our services, in terms of the independence that our agents experience on our team. Like, we are not like, I don't know any other teams that operate the way that we do, but we're definitely very different. And we kind of hit a wall where we were in terms of what we could do and what we could offer. We couldn't offer any more to our team members, either in terms of splits, which, we did end up doing a raise when we moved, but it's another story. In terms of services, in terms like we had just really kind of hit a ceiling. We had wanted to expand. 5 years ago, we sat down with the owner of our previous brokerage, and we had lunch, and we were literally talking about how can we expand. We wanted to expand outside of our state and our little geographic, little regional area that they served, and it just wasn't something that could happen there. And now we can. And that was one of the things that was really important to us. I have been extremely blessed to have built a very large community of women in real estate. 11 years ago, before my team, long before we made the move to Real, long before I even, we even started our real estate team. Our team's been around now for 10 and a half years. I started empowering women in real estate like 11 and a half years ago, almost 12 years ago. And I started this community, Empowering Women in Real Estate. And this community has now grown to over 40,000 women in the real estate industry. And we have obviously this podcast that you're listening to. We do an annual conference. We have monthly meetups in 30 plus, I think maybe 35 now, cities across the country. We have our Inner Circle group coaching program, which has been around now for 6 years. There's a lot of bits and pieces here, and there's a huge community that I was not able to fully actualize, like fully serve, fully implement as a business at our previous brokerage. And now being at this model brokerage, I'm able to do that in a way that I couldn't where we were before, which kind of opens up for a lot more opportunities at large. And so that's huge. We wanted and we needed more training. They were wonderful people at our last brokerage, but we were getting we were getting like a little microcosm of, like, in terms of picture of overall markets and marketing methods and client service methods and, sales tactics. Like, it felt very small and very local, and we needed a bigger picture. And now that was one of the things that really attracted us at Real. And we have that. There's 32,000, I think, agents at the brokerage. We've been able to connect with agents all across the country. There are, 4, 5, 6 live masterminds or trainings. They're happening literally every single day, plus an entire, training academy. You can go on you can be up in the middle of the night and can't sleep and want to get training on a particular topic. And you can go on and you can find literally anything you want taught by agents at Real. And so we were really attracted to that. We were really attracted to being able to build something beyond our last home sale, right? I'm 52. My business partner is 52. If you look at the average age of the agents on our team, I would say the average age is definitely like mid 40s and above. And when you sell a house, there's nothing else coming until you sell your next house. And that's not a retirement strategy. And we really wanted to find a way to have something, not just for us, but also for our team members, to have additional opportunities from an income perspective. And we have been able to do that with Real. There is a stock purchase program. And even if you choose not to participate and purchase stock, there are stock awards that everyone is eligible for. There is a revenue share program. There are so many, and there's more ways too. You can make money through lending and title. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways to make money at Real beyond just your last home sale. And obviously it's all driven by production. Production is the name of the game. You don't have a brokerage. You can't have revenue share if people aren't selling houses. It's all based around production, but there are other avenues that take advantage. It's basically like taking that production that you're already doing and like plussing it up, like adding, finding ways to get additional income, like to get as much as you possibly can out of every transaction. And some of those layers are things that will continue to pay you even beyond your home sales and even when you decide to stop selling altogether and you don't even have a license anymore. And that it was so attractive to us. That was, one of the things too that kind of drew us there. So, in terms of the biggest benefits that we have experienced, one of the biggest ones, obviously that we've experienced now, it's been almost 2 years since we started our national expansion. And that's incredible. I mean, we've been able to expand now, as of the day I'm recording this, to 19 different states. We're very close to bringing on our 20th state without me having to get a license in all of those states. I am a licensed broker in Virginia, but I don't have to have a license. The way the model works, the flexibility for team leaders is I can have team members that are in any state that Real is licensed in, and I don't have to be their broker. I'm not their broker. I'm their team leader. And it's amazing to be able to have that opportunity. We've always been a team that has had people who have been licensed in a couple of different states, just because where I'm located, I live about an hour or so outside of Washington, D.C., but a lot of the areas that we serve, like we are very close to, obviously, Washington, D.C., parts of West Virginia, parts of Maryland. And so a lot of agents in our market and even on our team have often been licensed in multiple states, maybe DC and Virginia, or, Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia, but we weren't able to move beyond that. Now we have been able to move beyond that. We have agents as far away as, Washington State and California. That's really amazing. And to be able to do that, the way that we have been able to shift and structure our team, we have been able to do it in such a way, and anybody who is a team leader or a brokerage owner, you will know and understand that the profit margins are very thin, especially the last, few years. They're very thin. And this nationwide expansion has allowed us to, we haven't had to take on additional expenses. In fact, we've been able to reduce a ton of expenses. We haven't had to bring on additional staff. In fact, we've been able to reduce staff. We have been able to increase splits for the team members that are on our team. We have 2 different compensation plans on our team. Well, I should say service levels. We have 2 different service levels on our team. And then within those service levels, there are a couple of different compensation plans where our team members can, pay as little as a $4,000 cap to the brokerage because of the size team we are. And, agents can pay as little as a flat transaction fee to us, or a 5 or a 10% split, depending on what the service level is that they opt for. And so it's given us a lot more flexibility. Our cost per agent has gone down, which means that we're able to pass that back to our team members. So they're actually able to be on our team, receive, everything they need, and, not have to overpay for it. And so that has been a really beautiful thing for us. We have been able to establish a founding partner model, which is creating leadership and income opportunities within our team as we bring on new states or new regions or areas, right? Because obviously, except for Delaware is one of the states where we have a footprint. And, our founding agent partner in Delaware, she serves literally the entire state because the state is not that big. But think about Texas, where we have agents, or California or Florida, these states are huge. And so you need kind of more than one founding agent partner to kind of serve different regions. And the amazing thing is as we bring in those founding agent partners in those different areas, they're able to have leadership and income opportunities there as well, because then they help us to grow our presence in that state or in that region. which means that they have then sponsorship and revenue share opportunities. And if they're interested, mentorship opportunities. It just kind of allows us to expand the opportunities for everyone. And that I really love. 6 years ago, when I began shifting away from serving clients myself, but still producing a high level of volume and income, I wish there had been a model or a blueprint to follow. And that's why I've created the Midlife Real Estate Blueprint. It's the next step for experienced women in real estate who want to keep the income and change the way they work. Inside this program, you'll redesign your role, install simple, repeatable systems, and create margin for what matters to you while staying highly productive. We have 2 programs now available, a 5-week live program with coaching and community, or a self-paced edition that you can start anytime. When you're ready, visit empoweringwomeninrealestate.com and click on Midlife Real Estate Blueprint. Revenue share obviously has been a significant benefit for us. We will probably finish, in fact, we will, I don't have the exact number because I record this early, so I don't have the final number yet, but we will have brought in over $150,000 in revenue share this year. And that is pretty remarkable, to have that extra money that comes in every month. And again, it's like, I was saying, it compounds. I think sometimes people get into something and they think it's with anything. They're going to start farming, or they're going to, start some other marketing program, or they're going to add a new pillar into their business. And they, they think they're going to do something for a month or 2 or 3, and they're going to start to see, huge returns. And I don't know anything that works that way. It's a compound effect. This is the result of 3 years now of work. And it's just continuing to grow, and it's continuing to compound. And it's been really amazing for us in a lot of different ways. It creates financial stability during slower sales months, knowing that we have, we're not just relying on the amount of homes and transactions that I can produce, my partner can produce, or that our team members can produce. It's our entire network of agents, right? We have more than 275 agents in our network, and we have 60 agents on our team. That's our actual team, and 275 as part of our network. And those are people that, we've brought into the company, or that person's brought somebody in, like your network, it blossoms. And that is so amazing, and has provided such a ripple effect for so many people on our team. One of the things now that we have been able to do is, and I actually have a sticky note that's on my computer monitor, and it says, create opportunities they wouldn't have otherwise. And that is something that I really love to do. Now that we have been able to build out our network, when I bring people into the company now, I'm very rarely their direct sponsor. I'm still their sponsor because I'm the sponsor of their sponsor, but I am rarely their direct sponsor anymore, because I'm partnering them, especially if they're joining our team. I'm partnering them with what we call a platinum sister. And often it's someone in their area, or it might be 2 people in their area. Has a co-sponsorship model. And so it's giving opportunities to these other women that they wouldn't have had before. It's giving them additional income opportunities. And gosh, I love that. I get so excited. Just this, I mentioned Abby in Delaware, our founding agent partner in Delaware. And just over the past week, the past month, I've been able to help her to sponsor or co-sponsor 3 agents, because these are agents that are licensed in Delaware or getting licensed in Delaware. And so it's giving her more opportunities that she wouldn't have had before. And, the way revenue share works is it's not coming out of the agent's pocket. When an agent comes into the brokerage, they have a split and they have a cap with the brokerage. And of the split that they pay to the brokerage then shares that with the sponsor or the 2 sponsors for that particular agent. And then also the sponsors of those sponsors, right? So it goes down multiple layers. And that's really amazing. It allows you to really if you are someone, and we all are this, so please don't come at me with, this is easy for you to say. We all have influence. And every time, long before, empowering women in real estate was a thing, every brokerage I have ever gone to, I have had agent friends who have come and joined me at that brokerage. I've had people who have called me and said, "Hey, I saw that you're at this place. How do you like it? I'm thinking about it too." And every brokerage except my very first one, and they probably had something like this, but because of the team I was on, I didn't get benefit or to know of any of that. But every other brokerage I've been at, there has been compensation when you brought someone into the brokerage. It was either maybe it was a one-time fee. Like I remember when I was at Century 21, at one point they had like $1,000, or maybe it was like a $1,500 like bonus that you got over like the first like one or two transactions of the person that you referred in. And at my last brokerage, at one point they had a 5% benefit, and then that kind of shifted as their model shifted. And then I think I was making $25 or something per transaction for people that I brought in or referred into the brokerage. So this is not like scammy or new. This is something that brokerages have always done. Just think of it as kind of like affiliate marketing. It's just there's a larger benefit here. There's a more expansive benefit than in any of those other places where I have been. And so that has been amazing. Obviously, not just for us, for myself and my business partner, but now it is also for my team. One of the things that is very interesting is, I've heard a stat about, multiple cloud-based brokerages like EXP, that only 11% of agents at the brokerage actually earns money from revenue share. So that's an eye opener right there, because I think there's a misconception for people who don't understand these models, who think that it's only about the revenue share and nobody's selling houses because it's all about rev share, but only actually 11% of agents are actually earning an income from revenue share. Everything else is all production. But here's the thing. 11% of the agents on average at these brokerages earn revenue share, but 34%, and actually I think it's more now because of some of the people that we've brought on recently, more than 34% of the agents on my team are earning money from revenue share. And if I have my way, one of my goals is that every single agent on my team will earn money from revenue share. And that's pretty amazing if you think about it. And so that has been that opportunity has been bigger and better, I think, than we have ever even imagined. And the ripple effect now that it's having on the other agents on my team and in my world has really been amazing and incredible. We truly have had access to the new ideas and the high level thinking that we were craving and wanting, exposure to top agents across the country. I can't tell you how many times we have reached out to agents in different markets that are doing way more business than we are. And they've gotten on a call with us, and we've been able to have a conversation. We've been able to learn things. And whether it's one-on-one or on different, masterminds, we've had so many opportunities through that did not exist before. In fact, it happens not just at the brokerage as a whole, and we've had multiple transactions that have closed as a result of these connections. But again, within our team, and I'm bringing up Abby because we had a couple calls this week, so she's kind of top of mind in Delaware. But on one of our calls, Abby was saying, just this year in 2025, she's had 5 referrals from team members, and 3 of them closed. Like that's amazing, right? That's incredible. Wouldn't you love to have an extra 3 transactions, from these relationships? And so that's been great. It's helped us to open our mind in terms of how we do things, and has just sort of elevated a lot of the stuff that we do. I'm trying to think of some other things just to sort of share. Certainly it's helped us from a scaling perspective, obviously for our real estate team. That has been great. It's given us more opportunities for the agents on our team, which has been really good. We've got a couple of agents that are probably going to hit elite in the next year. When you hit elite agent, it means that you've capped, and you've also, kind of capped on your transaction fees. So you're doing around 30 to 35 transactions a year, just kind of depending on how the numbers shake out. And you receive a $16,000 stock award when you do that. And I've been fortunate enough myself to earn that the past 2 years. And now we have team members that are on pace to do that. And, that's incredible. I mean, here's the thing that has been so amazing for us at Real that we have not had previously. There are things that we have not changed in how we do business, but we're able to make more money from it. And making a lead is a perfect example. Like, I'm still generating business. My business is served by my team members. And yeah, obviously I'm making my commissions from that, but now I'm also able to hit a lead from what I'm already doing and getting the $16,000 stock award that I wouldn't have otherwise. I've actually, for the last, my oldest son is a senior in college, which is weird to say. And the last 2 years of his tuition, I have been able to pay from stock. Like, imagine that, right? I'm not having to drain my savings, my retirement accounts to pay for his college, and he's going to graduate from college debt free. And that's pretty amazing. And I owe a large part of that to Real. And so that's been pretty incredible. I guess maybe covering a couple of the misconceptions, and I've already touched on those a little bit. It's not just about recruiting. Revenue share is definitely an option. It's not an obligation. As I mentioned, only 11% of agents are actually at the brokerage are actually receiving that benefit. There is so much flexibility in terms of how you build your business and run your business and do your business. To me, that's super important. I've been in business for 23 years. I've been a team leader for 10 and a half years. I want flexibility. I need independence. I don't want a ton of rules and my sign has to look like this. And obviously we have our rules for each state that we're serving and where I'm licensed. But I don't tell me how to run my business. I know I have my model, and this has given us so many options, which has been really amazing. You don't have to choose when you have a model like this. You don't have to choose between serving clients and building a team. There's so much flexibility in the types of models that are available that you can really kind of do anything. So I love that. So I guess some advice as I kind of bring this to a close, advice for anybody who's considering a move. If you are at all thinking it might be time for me to make a move, then that means it is time for you to make a move. So what are some questions that you want to ask? I mean, I think the first thing before you even start asking questions is, and kind of filling your brain with the information on whether it's Real or another company, is to get clear on you. Get clear on what you want. Get clear on what's missing in your business right now. Get clear on, what's working and you want more of. Like, get clear on what you're looking to grow into. The more clear you can be about what your needs are, the easier a move is going to be for you and an easier time you're going to have understanding what it is that you're looking for. One of the things that I hear from people, the holdbacks that I hear from people a lot of times about cloud-based brokerages is, oh, but there's no office and I need an office. But then a lot of times people are saying that it's almost kind of like a default that they're saying it, that they're just thinking like, oh, this is just something that I'm missing. But because they're not really clear on what they need and how they run their business, then they're not even realizing that that's a non-issue. For one, there's a lot of solutions for offices. If you absolutely are not somebody who can work in your house, there are a lot of solutions. But the second thing is, and I hear this from agents all the time, they're giving up office space. They're not going into the office. They said they needed to be with this brokerage because they had to have the office. And then you talk to them 6 months or a year later and, they don't have the office space anymore because they were never going in. So get clear, like crystal clear on what it is that you actually are needing. And it's got to be more than office space and copies. Because if your focus on what you need in your business is office space and copies and folders, you're looking at the wrong thing. You're looking very transactional. You're not looking at the big picture as a business owner of what you really need and what's going to take your business further. And so then once you're clear, then start asking some questions, do your research. Obviously, you've got podcasts like mine. There's a lot of great videos on YouTube, and start asking around and start seeing, and not just Real, research multiple options. See, there's a lot of choices out there so that you can compare. In terms of what I wish I knew before joining, I honestly wish I'd done it a lot sooner. And that would be kind of impossible because I didn't even know about this company until That first call that I got when I said no was like 4 months, I think, 4 or 5 months before we actually sat down. I, you know, I wish I would have moved to a model like this. In fact, Vicki, my partner, and I were talking about it today. I wish I would have done this 2 years earlier because this has been the solution for so many things and has opened the door to so many opportunities. That's really, I think, maybe the only thing that I wish. Timing, when it comes to timing for a move, that's one of the things I talk to agents. I talk to a lot of agents about moving, and everybody gets really hung up on that. Well, I've got this transaction, that transaction. You know, Timing matters, but it also kind of doesn't, because once you make that decision that you're making a move, it is going to be impossible for you to time it perfectly. If you're waiting until something is closing because you're afraid your broker is not going to pay you, which I get it, that's a real fear. Once, when I did one of my brokerage moves, I was not paid for two transactions that were pending. Other brokerages, when I've moved, I was paid for everything that was pending. And so, but if you're waiting, then what you're doing is you're actually slowing your business down because you're going to be afraid to take on more business. And you just kind of get into this weird kind of mucky muck you're not really moving forward. And so you just have to kind of, like, once you decide, you could just kind of have to go. The other thing that I will say is I think a lot of people, we try to time it perfectly. We tried to time it perfectly in sharing it with our broker. We knew from previous experiences that, I'll never forget, I was so naive when I made my first brokerage change. And this was, I don't know, 17 years ago. Um, I thought I was going to give my broker, my team leader, 2 weeks notice, right? Because that's what you did in a corporate job. So I thought that that's what you were supposed to do. And I was cut off immediately. My email was cut off. I remember it so clearly because I told her, I gave her my 2 weeks notice, and then it turns out one of my sons was sick. And literally, like, I told her, I talked to her, and then like 30 minutes later, I had to take my son to the ER. And he was really sick and had a really high fever. He was super young at the time. And while I was in the ER with my son, I tried to check my email on my phone, and I realized I am locked out of everything. And so, it's hard. We want to be respectful. You want to give notice, but when you give notice, they want you out of the house as soon as possible. And sometimes they find out before you tell them. And that happened to us last time. We had plans, we had a date. We had only told our team, we were trying to give our team members the respect of time to figure out and take in the information and figure out what they wanted to do before we told our broker. And word leaked out, and the shit hit the fan, as they say. And that was certainly not how we wanted it to go. We were going to let them know the next day. It just didn't turn out that way. And so, when it comes to timing, you're not going to get it perfect, but once you know, then you just need to go. And that's kind of the bottom line for that. So what's next for us, I guess? States we're looking to expand into next. We are actively working on Tennessee. So we are very excited about that. We are actively working on New York State. So we are excited about that. But there's a lot of other places in between where we would love to expand. And so we're hoping my goal was to be in 20 states by the end of 2025. And I think we might just do it. Eventually, we want to be in all 50 states. And so that might be my bold goal for 2026, is that we hit all 50 states. The leadership opportunities for our team, at this point, I don't want to sponsor anyone myself personally anymore. I mean, if it's somebody who's not coming to our team, then I may, but otherwise everybody's going to be sponsored within or co-sponsored with me and somebody on our team, because I want to give, just as I've been doing, I want to give those opportunities to our team members. And I am seeing more and more of that. My goal, again, it's kind of a big goal for next year, but my goal is for every single team member to receive income from revenue share. And we're about a third of the way there, right? 34% of our team is currently earning income from revenue share. And I would love to see that be 100%. And yeah, so I mean, that's kind of our mission. If you kind of look ahead for the next, what's the next 3 years bring? it's more of that. 3 years from now, we're going to be in all 50 states. And, we have consistently been a top 20. I think we just came up with third quarter rankings on number 15 for our size team at Real. And I'd love to see us in the top five for teams in the next 3 years. And yeah, so that's it. So if you're curious about Real, if you're curious about my real estate team, I would be so happy to speak with you about it. And uh, you know, always super confidential and very, there is no pressure. It is just a conversation. I love having conversations, sharing what I've learned. I love hearing what other people's goals are. And even if this is not a fit for you, then I may know of another fit for you. And anybody who's talked to me will tell you that I'm always happy to share that. So don't hesitate to reach out. Great way to connect with me is on Instagram. I'm at karen.w.cooper. And until next time, stay well.
Thank you for listening to Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast. Click subscribe to be notified every Wednesday when our latest episode is released, and be sure to check out our group on Facebook.